have 30 trillion cells in your body, all of them are tossing. Immunotherapy, the good part about it is it has very little side effects. So I came back to India because that is where my social fabric is also, and I still had to find my way in terms of what I was doing. And at that time, so for the poor person, coming up with this 6 lakhs is a life-changing decision.
I've heard you've done a lot of crazy things. You've worked in the US and now you're working in India. आपने ऐसी क्या क्या अजीबोगरीब कहानियाँ या अजीबोगरीब आपके एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, थोड़ा सा आप एक बार वो बताएं.
Okay, so I grew up in Mumbai in a business family, so I wasn't really looking for a career. But you need to have an education. So I went to school in Bombay, I went to St. Xavier's College. I actually was confused about whether to do geology or to do biology.
Okay.
Ultimately, one day in the canteen, we decided that, most of my friends were going to do biochemistry, so I decided to take the biochemistry route. I did very well in the exams because I'm good at taking exams, I guess. And everyone at that time was going to the US. So I said, okay, maybe I should go. My parents didn't quite object. So I applied and I ended up going to the US. Through the vicissitudes of life, I ended up in an MD PhD program, which is premised on a very interesting notion that medicine is becoming very technologically oriented. But the typical doctor is not exactly a very technology friendly person. And the technology people do not have the deep learning curve of medicine. So you're developing the technology for medicine in the absence of meaningful crosstalk. So places like Harvard Medical School decided that maybe we should have a program where the student actually does an MD and a PhD. Okay. So now you actually have the full training in medicine and you also have a training in basic science. And you could do your PhD in anything. You could do it in electrical engineering, you could do it in mathematics, you could do it in chemistry. Yeah. There was a lot of latitude. I ended up in this program and did my MD and PhD there. And I came back to India after this with the intent of doing things in healthcare, which didn't quite work out for me. So I went back to the US and did something very strange. I started a business which does inventory control for Caterpillar for worldwide. So I came back to India because that is where my social fabric is also, and I still had to find my way in terms of what I was doing. And at that time, 2 events took place which actually had an outsize, in hindsight, an outsize impact on my life. Dad's youngest sister and one of my grand aunts both were diagnosed with cancer in quick succession. Both of them were older, they were 75 plus years in age, and they had metastatic disease, which means that the disease had spread extensively. And when that happens, mostly you cannot cure the person. So we knew that we were unable to cure the patient. They had huge amount of resources, so we could have taken them anywhere in the world. But we said that if we are not going to cure them, what we need is just to give them longevity with a good quality of life and not move them out of the fabric of our society. So I decided that I should at least at this point roll up my sleeves and start doing something in medicine, which I had been trained to do. So now what happened is that we were staying in Bombay at a place called Kemp's Corner. The closest hospitals which were well known were Breach Candy Hospital, Just Low. So we went to these places and the question that they asked is, who's the doctor you want? Now this was kind of transformative in my journey because I said, how does this work? How does a patient decide who's the doctor they need? Do they need a surgeon? Do they need a chemotherapy doctor? Is all their workup done? But generally what happens is that you ask friends, family, people that you know, and you pick a doctor.
Yeah.
People in the upper sort of echelons of society who have a little bit more money will end up picking a doctor who is aspirational. In a country like India, this doctor will be seeing anywhere between 50 and 100 patients a day. Therefore, they cannot allocate more than 10-15 minutes to a single patient, if that.
I think same is the case at smaller hospitals.
Probably.
Sometimes a patient might get more time, but if you want to see a top doctor in a small hospital, I think it's more or less the same.
It would be roughly the same.
Yeah.
Now, so what I felt is that in a very complex problem, a person who is probably smart is still only able to allocate 10-15 minutes. They decide what needs to be done, and you are told prescriptively what is going to be done.
Yes.
You have no idea what is going on, so you're vulnerable, you're ignorant, and you just have to depend on somebody telling you what needs to be done. To me, this was not acceptable. So I decided that things should be done the way I was trained to do them, which means that you see, you have to tumor board the thing where you see, the medical oncologist, which is the chemotherapy person, the surgical person, radiology, histopathology people, when needed, radiation oncology, and anybody else who is required actually needs to come together to, by consensus, decide what the way forward is.
Yeah.
And then this should be explained to the patient and the stakeholders that this is the way forward.
Yeah.
This is why we are picking the way forward. This as the way forward. What are the risks and rewards? What are the expectations? And then you go forward with this, right?
Yeah.
Now, the reason why large centers do this is not because it gives them pleasure. It roughly gives you 30 to 40% better outcomes than not doing it.
Yeah.
In a broader context, see, dealing with any complex problem, which you need to do repeatedly in a scalable manner, cannot and is not based on individual brilliance. It's actually being meticulous, having processes, being collaborative, okay?
Yeah.
Which is not how the individual doctor thing is structured to be.
Yeah.
So I decided to do this for my own family members, and it was going extremely well for them. So they would tell people, that we knew socially that, oh, this thing is, how useful it is, and, all this sort of stuff. So before I knew it, people started approaching me and saying, oh, can you help my mother? Can you help my aunt? These were people that we knew socially. And how are you going to say no, right? So suddenly, I had 8 to 10 patients. Now, all these people were very happy. So at that point, the thought that struck me is that if people like us require this input and they're struggling, and I can make a difference which is huge in terms of their overall outcome, what about the poor?
Yeah.
So I decided that maybe I should open up this service to people who are from the weaker sections of society. So now when I did this, obviously, you'll get a lot of patients.
Yeah.
So suddenly I had 30, 40 patients. And when I started dealing with the poor, I found that this was a huge gap that needed to be filled. And there were certain things which were very low-hanging fruit, okay? Like if you have a rickshaw driver who comes with his wife who has extensive metastatic breast cancer, if they go to a big hospital and sit for some aspirational person, they will end up waiting for 3 hours. This is a very busy person.
Yeah.
The person will look at the file. It'll take 30 seconds to determine that nothing can be done. So they will spend 5 minutes and tell the person that, just listen, we can't do anything about this. It's not curable. The person has 6 to 8 months to live. We'll try and manage the pain. And that's the end of the whole engagement. Now, this is deeply unsatisfying to somebody who's vulnerable. So what happens is, not merely in India, almost anywhere in the world, if this is where you are, and there's nobody to hold your hand, you will almost certainly find a charlatan who will say, give me 5 lakhs of rupees or give me 6 lakhs of rupees and I will cure you. You will very likely pursue this because it's a young patient, you are invested in the person. So for the poor person, coming up with this 6 lakhs is a life-changing decision. They will beg, borrow, sell their things. And essentially, it will impact the entire family's life. But there is going to be no outcome. If anything is going to be worse, because now they've borrowed, they have an expectation which is not going to be met. So that also comes as a shock. Now, what I found is that if I spend an hour, hour and a half explaining to this person what is the nature of cancer, why even if you had 300 crores but you were in this situation, you cannot cure the person. The poor are the best at accepting the harsh realities of life. They have lived with it all their lives. But everybody deserves the dignity of an engagement. When I do this, 80% of the time, they will not go to the charlatan. Now, I have not changed the trajectory of the disease, but I have made a huge difference to the life of this family. Even this is meaningful. Very often, the converse situation is true, that a patient has a 75% chance of a cure, but they are afraid to undergo treatment.
Why is that?
Because chemo, if you're poor and you go to Tata, it's a tough place, right? So there are many things which are shocking, and then somebody will tell you that, oh, don't worry about it, you can take this herbal thing or whatever and you'll be fine, it happened to my grand aunt or whatever, right? You know. And see, like just a few days back, I got a patient who was diagnosed with renal cell carcinoma. Now, actually she had none. Okay.
She had none?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, now if this lady hadn't come and she had done some herbal thing, she would have been cured of a cancer that she never had, right? it would have been a fantastic story, right? So basically, half the time you don't even know what's happening, right? What the reality is. I am able to help patients based on the time that I have. And my footprint is very limited because in a country where very likely 30 lakh people are getting cancer every year, I am helping 6,000 people a year. And I will probably do this for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and then that's where it will end. But I am able to do this, I was able to do this, and I had all this learning because I was privileged. I had the safety net to be able to do this. I had the educational background. I had the network. I had all sorts of resources which allowed me to do this. And this was a privilege. It's, I was born into it, so to say, right? So this allowed me, in a sense, to build a car. Because doing this is not easy.
So can we get a 5-minute crash course on what is cancer?
Sure, certainly. So generally the way I explain this to patients is that if you take the cells of your epithelium in your skin.
What is epithelium?
The surface of your skin, right? These cells are turning over every 3 to 4 weeks. Your liver is turning over every 4 to 6 months.
That means the cells are dying every 4 to 6 months.
You have a completely new liver in 6 months. So cells have died and they have got replenished, and it all can't happen at a particular moment in time. There's a turnover. So there's a complex equilibrium state, but these cells are dying and they're getting replenished. Now the reason I'm explaining this is that if one has to do anything in a chronological manner, you need to have a mechanism of timekeeping. So your body, every cell in your body has biological clocks. In cancer cells, there are specific clocks which are broken, which, because they are broken, the cancer cell doesn't know when to die. So the cell doesn't die. It's become immortal. Now it sounds very ominous, but it clearly isn't, because you see people have warts, they have moles, they have benign cysts,
Yes.
which are abnormal cells which never die, and they are really not very life-threatening.
So more than one type of cells can exist, cells that don't die, and not all of them are cancers.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, those are benign things which they are not dangerous, because a mole or a wart is extremely slow growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't grow much, it doesn't die, but it's not growing either.
Yeah.
So what if the thing is not only not dying but growing rapidly? Even that is not sufficient, because if I take your lung cells and put them in your liver, or I take your liver cells and put them in your your muscle, they will not thrive, they'll die. These cells require a very specific environment. So if your breast cells are growing rapidly and not dying, they will still not grow in the bone. That is another property that they have to acquire to grow in a different environment.
Okay.
So in a cancer cell, there are 8 or 9 things which are all independent of each other, which have to happen in a single cell for it to transition from a normal cell to a cancerous. Now many of us will have 5 or 6 of these changes, but they are not sufficient to become cancer.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to reach this. Now this is a very improbable event for these 9 things to happen. But today your lifetime risk of getting cancer is almost 25%. So if these 9 things converging in a single cell is such an improbable thing,
Why is it
why is the
happening
incidence of cancer so high?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Answer to that is, let's put it this way, that it's almost like my telling you that, when they toss a coin, and if you get 14 consecutive heads, I'll kill you. No, this is a 1 in trillion event, so you are quite unconcerned, right? I mean, it's not going to happen for thousands of years. The unfortunate part is, you have 30 trillion cells in your body, all of them are tossing the coin. Now the odds are okay.
Yeah.
So given enough time, with a little bit of bad luck,
Yeah.
that event will take place.
Okay.
But you need to give it more and more time.
Yeah.
Okay. So your risk of
if I'm understanding this correctly, the chances of me having a cancerous cell in the next 6 months is negligible.
Correct.
But the chances of me having a cancerous cell in my entire lifetime is quite probable.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other important thing is that, see, your risk increases with the passage of time. So your risk at 40 is 200 times less than your risk at 60. So as you become 65, 70 plus, your risk is higher, because now you have a lot of cells which are at 5 changes, 6 changes, 7 changes. So at 3 years of age, if your risk is 1 in 50,000, at 80, maybe your risk is 1 in 10.
Okay, now I got it.
Okay.
So let's say this is one cell,
Yeah.
it dies and a new cell is born. It might have 2 changes at stage 2.
Yeah.
Goes to third cell after this dying,
Yeah.
after the second cell dies and the third cell is born. It will not start from 0 change, it will have its third change then.
Correct.
Okay, so it's cumulative in nature.
It's cumulative in nature. Okay. So this is a way of understanding, and of course it's a little bit more complicated than this, but it's a good conceptual way of understanding.
Okay.
So now what is the important thing to understand here? That all cancers arise with a single cell in which these 9 or 8 changes have accumulated, which is an improbable event. If we could identify and eliminate that cell, you've reset the clock. But it's not that easy, because a single cell is not discernible either on a scan or clinically.
Okay.
So by the time the disease manifests itself, you have millions of cells. But if you're still at an early stage, surgery is a very good option, because if you have 500 million cells, or for that matter 2 billion cells, it may be just a 2 centimeter by 3 centimeter tumor. If you excise the entire tumor, maybe you've removed everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So the earlier you pick it up, the better off you are. Now, if you feel that the disease has exited through the bloodstream and it has gone to nearby locations because you have about 1,000 lymph nodes in your body which are acting like checkposts. So you see, if the lymph nodes around the tumor have contained all the cancer cells, even then a local treatment is good enough. Surgery, maybe do some radiation, chemo, etc., and that's fine. But if the thing has exited and gone through the cardiovascular to distant locations, now you have a much bigger problem on hand.
It's called metastasis.
Yes, that would be metastatic disease.
Okay.
So now you have a much more serious problem. Okay. So surgery is the excision of disease. Chemotherapy is intravenously or orally giving drugs which will spread through the body via the bloodstream and kill cancer cells when it encounters them, but it's by and large a blunt tool because all it's doing is killing cells which are in a state of division. So it will kill other cells, hence hair loss, hence, gastrointestinal discomfort, nausea, diarrhea, etc.
You become weak overall.
Exactly. Because it doesn't know which is the cancer cell, it's just killing a dividing cell.
And the idea is to stop when the all cancer cells are dead, and you then rebuild the body.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now you will get a cure if you go to zero. If you start with 500 billion cells and you go down to 4 cells, it's a remarkable achievement in terms of reduction of disease burden.
Yeah.
But 4 cells is 4 times worse than the starting point.
Yeah.
All you need is 1 cancer cell to start the process.
All over again.
So if there are 4 cells, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
Okay. That is why when you're treating with intent to cure, you have to over-treat because your intent is to eliminate every single cell. So you can kill cancer cells by radiation, which works very differently than chemotherapy. And surgery is obvious, you're just, cutting it out, right?
Yeah.
So these are your main modality of treatments. Now you see, explaining this to a patient is very valuable. So essentially, very frequently you have to have this conversation. And even if the disease is contained, okay, you still don't know whether 2 cells have escaped, right? There's no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
So all you know, based on what is called the standard of care, is what are the odds.
Yeah.
Okay. So supposing you have breast cancer, you treated it, but it came back in the bones. Okay. Now what the standard of care is telling you is that now this disease is almost incurable. Okay. Now statistics will tell you what is impossible. So it's like this, that if you have some algorithm to predict the height of a child in a particular demographic, you may say that, okay, if the median height is 5'3", then you see, 80% of the time the child will be between 5'1" and 5'5", and there's a small chance that you have a 4 feet 6 inch person and a 6 foot person is 1%.
Yeah.
But you also know that 9 feet 5 is impossible. So when you have metastatic breast cancer at multiple locations, you know that it's impossible to cure, just as in the same way that you know that it's impossible to have a 9 feet 5 inch person.
Yeah.
Okay, like immunotherapy is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So now if I have a head and neck cancer patient who has extensive disease and is being offered immunotherapy, right? Now giving immunotherapy is hugely advantageous for me because it's a 30-40 lakh rupees spend. So I mean, even if I'm making 15%, I'm making 5 lakhs of rupees, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now what I will do is explain to the person roughly how immunotherapy works, but what I will also tell them is that, see, though it's this big fancy thing, really if you have renal cell carcinoma or melanoma, it has a 70% chance of working.
What are these diseases?
So kidney cancer or skin cancer.
Okay.
Okay. Now if you have lung cancer, non-small cell, in 35% of the patients it will work. So from 70% it's gone to 35%, and this is the next best performer.
Okay.
So now if you have head and neck,
And
Okay.
what if you have leukemia or lymphoma? Blood
Then
cancer?
immunotherapy has no role.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I have a friend who was suggested this treatment. This treatment has stopped now, but not before they've spent a lot of money and time. So
Right. So what I'm saying is that when I'm saying immunotherapy has no role, I'm talking about PD-1 inhibitors, right? Now, they're completely different sorts of antibody-related treatments in leukemia, but solid tumors and hematological tumors behave completely differently. So just now we are talking about, PD1 inhibitors for, for solid tumors, right?
Okay.
So now what happens is that if somebody has colon or head and neck, right? And chemo is not working, everything else is used up, right? And the patient is willing to try anything. I will still explain to them that the odds of a favorable outcome are less than 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now there's a very good emotional problem that one needs to navigate. Let's say a person has a 35% success rate if it's lung cancer, right? But the person is young. Maybe they should try it. But the person is at 90 or 95. Maybe if we keep the emotions aside, maybe they should not try it.
Because we are in a poor country.
Yeah.
Immunotherapy, the good part about it is it has very little side effects.
Okay.
So if you have 100 crores, spend 25 lakhs, no?
No, so
Whether you are 90 years or not.
I'm asking for the common man. Let's say if someone comes with their mother or father, they would do everything they can to help them.
The other thing, Mandeep, that is important to say is immunotherapy doesn't cure you.
Okay.
The definition of a response is 2 to 3 years of progression-free survival on the average.
Okay.
So you are spending 20 lakhs to get 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Okay. So you really need to have the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise.
Yeah, if you are a 35-year-old who has a 3-year-old kid, okay, maybe you are better off allocating those 20 lakhs to the future of your family.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting cured.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is maybe the hardest thing to understand.
Exactly.
Do you see people following this logically or just emotionally?
When you tell them, they accept it, right?
Okay.
So then you see the other thing is that sometimes it's even trickier. So I had a while back